You are listening to Māpuna on RNZ National, and joining me now in the studio, the wonderful husband and wife musical duo known as Aro, Charles and Emily Luka. Now, we talked to them before. I don't know if you remember, but we talked a couple of years ago. Yeah. Well, okay, so we all remember that. They've released now a new album. It's called He Rākau, He Ngārara, and as you can hear, they are with me now. Tēnā kōrua. No, mai, tēnā koutou. We've got Te Au Marino, who is 4 months. 4 months?
4 months, almost 5.
Yeah, and unlike a lot of Māori babies, very quiet.
It's very chill.
Hi.
Very chill. Hey, I hope you don't mind, but before we get into the album,
Aye.
So the last time I saw you both was at the Kurereo at Whirinaki.
Aye.
And how was it? What was it like?
Oh, it's primo. I think the thing I appreciated was the invitation to consider what our contributions are going to be to ensure the longevity and sustainability of Ngāpuhi dialect, as opposed to it being kind of lessons, which was, I guess, the expectation, at least with the taumata of the tauira I was sitting with. But I really appreciate it. I think I just really appreciated being back home in Hokianga. So, whakarongotai te marae, o tōku whawhai, yeah. And so I've been on my own little journey. I've been through kohanga, kura kaupapa Māori, but like at a much later age, I realised actually how precious our reo and our tikanga are. And so I've been on this journey, went through Pinaki, and it just naturally led me to reconnect with our marae and learn our tikanga there and contribute there, hopefully.
Yeah, because before that, I think the last time I saw you both was at Awi Riddell's tangi.
Aye.
At Te Mahuruhuru.
Aye, kia ora.
And I didn't realise you had a relationship with it, because he was our principal at Te Aute.
Aye.
But your whaikorero was great. And I thought,
tēnā hui.
I didn't realise you knew the old fella. So,
Aye.
you know, and I think the thing about kurereo is, you're right. It makes you think about what your contribution back to community is going to be.
Aye.
It also, I think it kind of imbues it with a sense of responsibility too, right?
Aye.
Which is, I don't know, sometimes that can be a bit of a pressure and a burden on one's shoulders. But, the responsibility of doing things in te reo, like you both do, like you all do. What's that like? Do you feel that sense and weight of responsibility of having to do things in te reo for contribution to revitalisation of te reo? Or is this is just an extension of what you normally do anyway?
I think it started with, it felt natural to do. But I think for me, in your pātai and some of the kōrero you've already mentioned, e hara taku toa I te tuatakitahi, engari he tuatakitini. So I think whenever we're around the community that's also about the same kaupapa, it doesn't feel like a heavy pressure. It feels kind of exciting.
True.
Yeah, to be a part of a movement. Pēheo whakaro, what do you reckon?
Well, as Pākehā myself, I feel very honoured to be able to be learning the language and singing waiata reo Māori. Along with a nation that's all, hopefully everyone's starting to to get on the waka, by now. But it's beautiful. And it was beautiful being up at the kurereo as mama with our two tamariki while Charles got to soak it all up. It's incredible being in spaces like that where,
that's the norm.
The norm. Everyone's just kōrero Māori. It's beautiful.
There were a few tamariki around when I was
there. Yes.
But
Olive loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's come to the album then, and because last time we talked about an album that you'd done at that stage. What motivated this one?
He Rākau and He Ngārara.
No, but in terms of the series of our projects, there's a deliberate plan. I think we may have, I can't remember if we mentioned this last time we had a uiui, but Dr. Ihirangi Heke, and we were present when he was talking about the tohu of our taiao. And so Manu was one, and so we released we were already writing an album when we found this out, and then he went to list other tohu, and so tama. And so our plan, I guess, was to see if we could do an album for each of those tohu. And so we've now arrived to He Rākau, He Ngārara. So many Ngārara in Aotearoa and so many Rākau. Which ones do you go with?
Which is the trees and the insects and reptiles. If we haven't mentioned them.
And how did we narrow that down though?
So the story of Mahuika and when Maui had taken all of the fingernails of fire off her ahi, the final throw, I guess, when she got really furious with him was the trees that set alight and can carry the flame, carry the fire, were the rākau that we ended up writing about.
Yeah.
That was kind of how we whittled it down to choose, because I mean there's so many beautiful rākau in Aotearoa, so yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Ngārara,
They were all connected through, so we linked up with different whanaunga of Charles's around the motu that he's connected with to learn, people who knew the stories of the different rākau that we decided to focus on.
Yeah.
Oh, get to play this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
And cute. Mama's got a feed. And cute.
yeah, and so we very privileged to get time with possibly some of like the busiest people in the iwi I come from. And just have a kōrero about
Who are we talking about?
Oh, so
Yeah.
for Moko Moko and Mahoi Patate, which is a song we just released actually, was with Paora Puru.
Oh, yeah.
And, yep. So Māngai mo Ngāti Te Ata Waiohua.
Yep.
And Mahoi and Patate is inspired by a tongikura of Pingu Tawhia o Ai. Te pau o te whare i hanga aia. E kingi me te iwi whānui o Waikato Tainui. Kōna pau he Mahoi he Patate. And yeah, we can get into that, but just like broadly, Paora Puru was one of them. Kapuau Kona.
Yes.
So we had kōrero around our
Kaikōmako.
That's his
Yeah.
relation.
Hey!
We actually got to try and start
We
a
tried
fire
to
with
start
him.
a fire with Kaikōmako. It was and Mahui.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Just side note, whānau. So it's not just like myths, mythology that kind of where these kōrero come from. Any of the rākau we've written about can start a fire. So there's truth in that kōrero, and there's kōrero tuku.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of them being Kaikōmako, Mahoi, Patate.
Noisy fella.
Yeah. Damon Litai, Ngāti Mutuka.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Down there in Taranaki, te Atiaua Nui Tonu. That was kōrero around, really just around my whakapapa and learning about Te Hekinga Mairaro, the great migration of the Te Atiaua people all the way to the top of the South Island.
For Pukatea and
Pukatea.
Tātarakihi.
Oh, yeah.
Tātaraki, yeah.
that's right.
Te kupu tupuna for kids, because they're noisy in the summer, and and so but the song tries to capture that. Hika, yeah, what's the other ones?
I don't remember what the last songs are even. Oh my God.
He's talking to the
Tōtara.
manager, by the way.
Tōtara.
Yeah.
Manager, take over.
Tōtara.
Tōtara. Zane
That's
wedding.
right, same wedding.
Yeah,
Right.
ona whakapapa he Ngāti Kuri Hoki, but his whakapapa is actually from his tupuna whaia. I can't remember her name, aroha mai whanaunga. But she was protected from Rākau, and Zane Wedding happens to be, if people don't know who he is, he's the guy who lived in the trees in West Auckland, so that they wouldn't chop them down. And so we got to meet up with him through Honanga, through Em's mum. They were doing in the same
Reo course.
course, yeah. And we had a kōrero about Tōtara, and why Tōtara is why is that the tree that we reference as Māori to be a person of great significance. Yeah, so nui te wānanga ki aia, and we had that kōrero at Tōtara Park.
You know,
Yeah.
it's really interesting you're talking about this because I was at a hui
Aye.
a couple of weeks ago, and the keynote speaker was talking about kupu whakarite
Oh, kia ora.
and birds and trees.
Yeah.
And then his ultimate challenge was, and he started asking us all these kupu whakarite, metaphors and similes and things like that. And said, okay, and what are some? And we started mentioning them. And we came up with about 100. And then he said, right, of all those rākau that you've just mentioned, how many of you can tell that's a kaikatea, that's a tūtara, that's a patate, that's a mahua?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the hands started coming out. So, and it's interesting, right? Because I think this is what happens when you start writing about these things.
Yeah,
It spurs in people the motivation to go, well, I need to go learn a bit more about this stuff. How do I know what's what? And there's apps that can help. But just getting back into taiao, which is people that I hang out with, they talk about this all the time. That ultimate kind of connection, which is really important.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no question in that. I just thought I'd
Yeah. No,
No,
that's fine.
tēnā koe. And I think with all of this, because we've had, 3 or 4 projects now, and so he mātauranga, we've got all these stories, and we're always looking for what the point of reciprocity is for, we were just having a yarn about this actually, for our hapu and for the hapori that contribute to our songwriting process. And so we're actually currently looking at trying to figure out how we can collaborate with my iwi to set up a show down, or
right.
down or up, wherever.
Yeah, in all the regions that
in
we've
all the
been
different regions that
doing
have
the research.
Yeah, kia ora. And so, there's definitely a focus. Koenei ahakoa, koenei ngā kupu o te waiata. Like we speak. It sounds like we talk a big game, but we do our best to make sure there's hands and feet to that game as well.
I think it's authenticity, right?
Kia ora.
Like lots of people can write about this stuff, but are they authentically interested or motivated or inspired or know it? You know, or know it. Who's the songwriter, by the way?
Both.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
How does it work?
Oh,
How would
it's
you
always
describe the
different.
process? It's always different.
Yeah, it is actually. Like one of the waiata we're going to share today, or the waiata, maybe the Kaikōmako. It started when we kind of had the kōrero with Kapua and learnt about the story behind. Oh, are you alright, little guy? He's a bit unsettled.
Kori ne.
Yeah, the story about Mahuika. What's the daughter's name again? Hene Kaikōmako.
No, Hini Kaikōmako's the mum.
The mum, that's right. Yeah. But it was around the mother's love for her daughter after Mahuika set the world on fire, coming back to the mum who was just like,
open arms.
It's all right, you may have just blasted the whole world with your flames, but I still love you.
Unconditional
love, it was about that. So, and I'd been humming a melody to our daughter Olive at night time, helping her go to sleep, and that ended up being the melody that we used to start this waiata. When we kind of learnt about the story behind it, we were like, oh, that'd be like, I was like, oh, I know what melody we should use, because it makes sense, it tied in our personal life about my love for Olive, and
So then how does it go from there?
From there, actually this whole song we wrote on the way back from a wedding in Gisborne. It was our in the car. We were away. Olive actually had her first ever night away from both of us, and staying with my parents for the night. And we drove down to Gisborne for a friend's wedding. And on the way home, I think we'd been talking about it on the way down. On the way home, Charles was sitting in the passenger seat with the guitar out the window, and coming up with some chords to kind of pair with this melody that I had, and with the whakaro that we'd heard from Kapua and this whole story. So that's kind of how it started. And literally that drive, we wrote the song. That's how that one happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a mixture of melodies coming together, chords and all, and then it just exploded into a little song. And then it kind of kept evolving, I think, when we went into the studio with Vivette Gabrielle, who produced the whole album. Often we'd be like, oh, we've got our next song. Like, we were like, we're coming into the studio on Friday, we've got our next song ready. We laid down the track, the simple version of it, which is the acoustic version, and then we'd kind of start to flesh it out and think about what songs we wanted. I was like, oh, we need a string section in there, so I wrote some parts for the strings, and we had, who did we have on this one? Chip.
Yeah, Chip Matthews.
Chip Matthews, I think.
Jin.
Yeah, Jin.
Strings player.
Oh, man. We had some epic musicians on this album.
The reason why I'm interested is, people like me with little to variably no musical talent. So when I hear you say things like, oh, we wrote down the string section. And
the way
it's all in my head. I can't play strings or anything. I literally get my laptop out and plug, just through my little headphones and sing the melodies. I love harmonies. Like, that's my thing. If I could choose one thing to be obsessed with in music, well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But just like layering it all down, and then I'd be in the studio with Jin going, cool, the next line's da 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 da.
And thankfully she was like, she was
happy to work like that as well, because I hadn't transcribed it or anything, which would take me a whole lot of time, to be honest.
So is it violin or cello? Or?
It was violin. Yeah.
And so literally you've got a violinist sitting in the studio.
Yeah.
And
I'd sent her my little demo with all my voices playing the parts.
Right.
And then she, when she came in, she's like, just sing me sing me the lines and then I'll play them back. And that's how it happened.
Yeah.
I was like, do you want me to try and transcribe it? And she was like, no, we'll just do you just sing it to me and I'll play it back. So it was
you realise that's hard case, eh?
It's just how it works for us.
Yeah, I don't really know who do I. Kupa, burp. Kupa. Well, quite out to Kupa, ngāpui. You can hear all the audience is turned off now. They're going, it's one of those ngāpui things. Yeah, because my very little understanding of how recording sessions go is that's not normal, or is it? I don't know.
Oh well, I think we just go in with an idea, and thankfully we know enough people. Yeah. Who know enough people.
Yeah.
To help us make
well,
that.
even with the bass and stuff, like Chip Matthews, bloody hell, he's the man. He would, went into the studio with what we'd done so far on our album, and we'd send through the little chord charts that how the song moves,
Yeah.
but then he'd just lay down these freaking insane bass lines.
Yeah,
that
yes.
just-
Wow.
And then when we hear it back, we're just like frothing in the studio, like, what the heck is this our song? Like,
So how long were you in the studio for?
it was kind of over about 6 months of last year, maybe a bit less.
Yeah, and
5
it
months.
wasn't every day.
No,
'cause
no,
we
no.
were still holding down.
It was pretty much Fridays in the
Yeah.
studio, occasional weekends. We went down to Wellington and recorded with Warren Maxwell and
Oh,
Wilson Cora.
far out. Okay.
Yeah, I know. This album, go and listen to it, fam. Po Nui,
Yeah, kia ora.
He Rākau. We saw him at the Auckland Arts Festival like
Years ago.
a couple of days before the first lockdown happened in 2020.
Wow.
And he was performing on this massive tree trunk and just making these, koro
Yeah.
is the name, and just making these absolutely mesmerising sounds. And we went into lockdown with that being the last big creative thing we'd been to. So we were like, whoa, just, thinking about it. So when this album started to come, we knew we were writing about the Rākau.
You had to find a way.
Yeah. And Lawton's mates with him, and he's like, oh, we should, go down to the studio and record with him. So we had a whole day in studio with Mike Gibson and
Wait,
Vivek.
this is Lawton
Cora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Warren, and
It's
he
only
just,
Warren and Lawton.
I know, I'm just going to throw those names
Oh,
out there.
but we met
Massive
Lawton because
legends.
we went to a wālanga up north around music mentoring.
Yeah,
and
with
helping
the
kids
NZ Music
prepare.
Commission.
Yeah, and we really vibed with each other.
Yeah.
And so he was keen to see what other projects we had.
Yeah.
And then,
Actually, because we had recorded a song with him and Tukutane last year, which was pretty cool. That's how it started. And then we were like, let's
Yes,
work with you.
stop now.
No, but it's just amazing. Like, it's insane. Like, for us, we're just like, these are like people that we've always looked up to, and like, it's pretty humbling to get to be in the same
It is.
space with them and get
Kia ora.
to, like, even with Moana Maniopoto the other day,
fuck.
like, it's just, these people who are absolute legends to us. Like, it's amazing. And they're just people who are keen to, like, get alongside, all the musos in Aotearoa, especially.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
I'm waiting for Charlotte Ryan to bust into the studio because she's doing Music 101 straight after this. So,
True.
You've mentioned everyone that pretty much she's interviewed, so she'll be like, why is Julian doing this? And I should tell you, I was watching Moana because we're on immediately after her on News Hub.
Yeah.
She's on at 8, we're on at 8:30, so I'm watching and everyone's going, you ready to go to air? I'm like, yeah, hang on. I'm only interviewing Dawidi and, Debbie Ngārara were picking on the mighty bit, and they're like, you're right? So, yeah, I'm just watching the sound, just give me 3 minutes. So, we've got 2 minutes to on here.
so funny. Love it.
Have we talked about the? We have talked about the album. No, look, I just love talking about this stuff with you fellas because I think it's cool. And the other thing is for an audience anyway, I think there's a genuine interest in how couples work together. And the reason why I asked about the songwriting thing, and you've answered it, is how does that process work? Because I think it's interesting. I think it's just the way that people who have talent, and this is when you don't have talent, you're really interested in this, how that happens. What was the intent originally for the album? Was the intent, because the last time we talked, you done it was an album for Thematic essentially, I think. What was the intent for
Was
this?
it Manu?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it wasn't an album for Tamariki.
Oh, okay.
No,
but
not
I
even. And that
this is an interesting.
it's interesting
pivotal point
because
in our kaupapa.
we actually recorded that album with Vivek as well, and his daughter was about 3 at the time, and when he'd take the songs home and sit with them overnight, sometime I think it was towards the end of the album, his daughter was just dancing like crazy to like some of the waiata in
Well, see, that's
particular.
what I thought it was.
Yeah,
'Cause-
it's become that.
Yeah.
We didn't realise we were writing songs that were going to be kids, for kids, but they've become whānau.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It just
So-
kind of is a part of it that just kind of happened as we went.
Yeah, and so I'm reminded that the thing tēnā koe tama. The thing I talk about is George MacDonald, who's a fantasy writer, and apparently who Tolkien and them used to look up to, C.S. Lewis. He was once, I read somewhere that he was asked, how does it feel to be a writer for children? He was like, oh, no, I don't write for children, I write for the childlike.
Nice.
And so
Yeah.
that's our approach.
Yeah.
And so there's some deliberate choices with our lyrics. As some of you who listen to us might already, we try to keep it simple but complex enough and interesting enough for parents.
Yeah.
You know what? That's right. Because if you were to listen to Hedini's stuff,
Aye.
you probably think his stuff's for Tamariki. It's not.
Aye, kia ora.
But there's a natural kind of affinity thing which tamariki have for that music, which makes you think, oh, so you play it at night. We used to play it at night for our boy. Play the music, listen to the koro and all that kind of thing. And go, oh, yeah, and you naturally assume it's a tamariki album. It's not.
Yeah.
It's actually an educational album.
True.
You're teaching taiao.
Ai, kia ora.
Yeah, and it's been pretty cool. Like when we have done, because we've done a few gigs and stuff that have been in spaces more for tamariki, and we do workshops in schools and stuff. But quite often we get parents coming up to us being like, "I really enjoyed that as a parent," and we're like, "Well, good, because it was written. It is whānau music." Yeah.
And so I think the intention, going back to that patai, the intention for this one was really to I puta mai te wero I Lawton. Kia maua, it's like, what is the voice of Aro? What do you guys actually sound like? Because we've done cross-genre stuff, and he's like, what is your real name? What is your tangi? What is your oro? And so this album is our attempt at trying to hone that while maintaining, ko te kaupapa nui o Aro is to celebrate our unique cultural identity. Especially for I think the name even Aro came out of and unfortunately, being at a tangi for one of my whanaunga who was way younger than I am, and then learning about, I guess, the identity crisis in that sense, and that. Yeah.
Well, what I would hope though is that because I find, particularly given our current political climate, it's about trying to put things in a box. When it comes to, this is the wrong way of putting this, our stuff.
Aye.
You know, they're trying to put things into a box so it's much more understandable and therefore much more limited. Right. So I hope that's not what's happening, because you're multi-genre.
Aye.
And it feels like to me that you're still kind of in the explorative phase about what it is to be Aro. So your creative kind of manifestation of what you're talking about is lots of different places, which I actually think is not a bad thing.
Aye, tēnā koe.
Yeah.
And if you know, and if that's a lifelong thing, that's fine.
I think it will always be evolving, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, this album's the first time we delved into a bit of country and a bit of, what else is there? There's like
I think we were
Namapoto. I don't even know how to explain that one.
Interesting. But I think we did make some like genre specific decisions because we realised that the folk music audiences really like us, and actually
it's the storytelling as well.
It's the storytelling. Yeah.
Like when we do a performance, when we do any show, it's always like weaving the stories into it. It's not just singing and song after song. It's like we have to tell people about what the songs are about and invite them into it, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, we are going to get you to sing. I think it's Kaikōmako, which Tama will love, because as I said, kapu is his Ngāti Kuri relation. And he'll be going, yes, for once it's not a Ngāpuhi thing. Because you know how they all think, all the Norse Ngāpuhi. Just thought I'd throw that in there. So, and this is probably way too forward of me to ask, but what's next?
I think we want to keep that a surprise.
Do we?
Oh,
okay, yeah, fair enough.
I think so. It's the big one. It's like the last tohu on our list that we learnt from Dr. Hirangi Heke's session.
Yeah, our next big project.
Yeah. And
as part of this 5-piece.
But if you follow if you want to reorganise the order, I guess, of our projects, we have our Rākau and our Ngārara. I know we start with our
Hewai.
Our kaitiaki of the moana. Yeah, Hewai. There's Ika, then there's Rākau and Ngārara, and then there's Manu. So if you follow that progression, hopefully you see where naturally the next tohu will be.
I think I know where we will.
Yeah, but we'll be touring the album later this year. Having had our pepe in January, we thought we'll just let the album sit out there for a little while, and then after Matariki, we'll get out there. Do some shows again and festivals next summer. So, in terms of what we're up to.
Yeah, and we're really looking another branch of Aro that we want to explore.
Stuck.
Is now that we have all these pūrākau, how do we make it accessible to all our tamariki mokopuna, and in a way that feels exciting to them, and perhaps I think we've been in different chats now where it almost takes them back to the tile if they're already there, but re-engage and make that connection through these stories and through these waiata. So we're looking at different ways, whānau, for those who might be interested.
There'll be a few of them, don't worry. Trust me, there's people interested. Tēnā kōrero. Tēnā kōrero i a tātou kōrero. Wish you all the best for the tour at the end of the year. Maybe end up in Taranaki around late February during Matatini.
Oh, okay.
We'll be there. All right, we're coming to
It's hard to get accommodation.
I know.
Lucky you've got whānau there.
Yeah.
I wonder if my tenuous rāhiri link to Taranaki will get me accommodation somewhere.
Yes.
Possibly in Waitara somewhere. Who knows? Ngari tēnā kora. Koutou. Ko te mariro.
Yeah, kia ora.
Tēnā koutou I tāmai. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you just engaging and having the kōrero.
Yeah.
Wish you all the best. We are going to hear a song from Aro to close out the show. Engari mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Thanks to our guests today on Māpuna. We have much more next week. Also thanks to Hamish and our producer Tama of the show. E kia ana te kōrero. Ko te toka ia ki hae toka whitinga rā. Ko te toka I Māpuna ko tāwe ki te ai ko te rupokau. Te hewa mauri ora kia tātou katoa. And we end the show with Aro and Kaikōmako.
Come home, my darling. I am here waiting for you. You set the world on fire, lost everyone in it too. Love is your greatest intention, your passion misunderstood. Leave it all out in the open. My love for you is secure. Rite, taikito, te mate, te ngaru o, te arohae. Cry in my arms, little darling. Rest your head on my heart. It sings for you.